Hello and welcome everyone to a very special episode of Was That in Good Taste? I'm one of your hosts and my name is going to be Chandler Phillips, and with me as always is the other one of your hosts.
My name is James Beery. Hello, pip pip, cheerio. Oh, that's the wrong sound. Pip pip, cheerio.
And today we're going to be trying a blackberry bourbon smash with cacao and orange.
We call it a 1776
Yeah. And
because of reasons. What are we talking about today? Oh, don't forget, like, comment,
and subscribe.
and subscribe. Listen, it's important. I don't think people understand this, right? And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you don't like, comment, and or subscribe, I don't exist.
It's true. It's kind of like a Tinkerbell situation where it's not just like he kind of fades into obscurity. It's more of like he feels actual pain from his spirit dwindling from this realm. Almost like it's being dissolved from an atomic cellular level.
Yes. I.e., I hurt.
Mm-hmm. It aches.
I ache. There's only two things in the world that I care about. It's me and it's the red light on that camera.
Is it on? It's on. Okay, perfect.
Whoa. He got scared for a second.
I got a little concerned.
What are we talking about today? First of all, 1776.
So okay. I feel like in order to capture what we're trying to talk about today, I need to rewind and tell you about my thought process that brought us here.
Okay.
So
How did we get here, Chandler?
I've been seeing a lot of whiskey forums lately that are obsessed with Crown Royal's new blackberry flavored Crown Royal whiskey. And Crown Royal is a Canadian whiskey that features a very similar kind of bourbon profile with a little bit more of rye influence. I actually think it might be a rye whiskey that's just kind of done in a bourbony kind of barreling. But anyway, notable, like if you don't know Crown Royal, I don't know.
What are you doing?
Go take a walk, touch grass. But so people are flipping out about Crown Royal Blackberry, and I figure what would be better than using a better whiskey and fresh blackberries to make your own blackberry flavored whiskey. And so we together got a little bit of creative ingenuity, made a blackberry smash, which a smash cocktail is really any sort of cocktail that uses some sort of muddling or maceration to put fresh fruit in a cocktail. So that is what brought us to here. I was like, hey, James, I want blackberries, I want bourbon, and I want it to be refreshing and delightful. And he says, what's he says?
Oh, I said, okay. I said, I have a cocktail in mind. I really just like this flavor profile. I think the flavor profile of blackberry, bourbon, and cocoa with the orange, I think is absolutely effing amazing. You had a sip.
I've had a sip.
What do you think?
I think that is utterly delightful. None of the flavors are too pronounced. It's not overly sweet. It's so refreshing. The bourbon, it's kind of sublime in it. Like it's not being like big and bold with bourbony flavors, but it just complements well, and it bridges the little gaps between the little bursts of flavor of blackberry that kind of gives like a nice little harmonious trill through it, and the cocoa that gives
dark chocolate nibs.
Dark chocolate that just bolsters the flavor and says, hey, this is a drink that's got some rich depth and complexity and some light fruity notes, all just kind of being conducted by a swell, robust bourbon.
You weren't sure or confident about the chocolate. I feel like was that what it was?
I was unsure.
It was the chocolate.
I was worried the chocolate was gonna kind of trump it. But you also did you do the chocolate?
I did one dash
bitters
of the Woodford Reserve chocolate bitters, and I did 2 dashes of the Angostura orange bitters.
I thought the orange would come through more than it is.
No. I think that the orange is really meant to kind of sit on your palate. It's kind of like one of those orange candies, only instead of it being done with milk chocolate, it's being done with dark chocolate,
Mm,
right? So the dark chocolate with the blackberry needs to be the upfront kind of like flavor.
yeah.
The cocoa is like kind of lingering in the background. I think it's lending. Actually, this is why chocolate's great. It's kind of an umami, actually.
Yeah.
It's sweet, but it's also savory. This is
Was there any like specific intention that you would have in like the way you would go in the muddling process? Like if you had optimal time in preparation, or like first, what did you do? Why did you do?
I mean,
and then
first-
if you could do it better, how would you do better?
I just took the blackberries, I muddled them, I introduced them into some simple syrup. We let it sit there for a little while. I strained it out. What I would have done really would have been to just make a blackberry syrup with perhaps some others like boysenberry or maybe even some blueberry, some other like
Oh,
more
yeah, give it
common.
a little bit more tart.
Yeah, yeah.
just
You know,
'cause-
you know how like juices will always have apple juice. It's not really meant. It's kind of meant to have a kind of earthy, not too sweet berry flavor, right? So I really would have kind of like made it like a syrup. Like I would have heated it up a little bit, allowing it, the cell walls to burst, and for it to, to acclimate and to combine with the syrup. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because then I think you would get a little bit more of that berry flavor. I would do the cocoa nibs the same. I think there's something about just putting them in there because it's cold. So it's not like melting. It's not ruining the drinking and making it taste all chocolatey. It's not a mocha. You know what I mean? The cocoa is there to just kind of give it something to sit on, something for it to, to help it express. Because I think, especially if you look, you'll always see that they have those those chocolate bars with fruit,
Yeah.
and there's one of the most popular ones is the fruit and nut.
That is true.
Right?
Like the dried.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
are you
like-
talking about like Kind Bar kind of deal?
Well, no, the one that comes in the bar. It is like orange and chocolate, and one of them is like dried fruits and cranberries and berries.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
You know, chocolate is good with fruit.
Chocolate is, and dark chocolate I think goes better with fruit than milk chocolate. I mean, of course you got like your chocolate covered berries. I'm curious if like a creme de cassis would be a fun kind of substitution in this, or the black raspberry chambord.
This is what I'm gonna be honest and say. This is what I think about this drink. I think creme de cassis would be too overpowering. I think there's I think there's a little bit of a delicate act going on here, and this is a drink that I think would be like served well by really picking a good whiskey for it, like a good bourbon or a good rye. You know what I mean? Like, and making like a really good blackberry syrup.
I kind of think a rye might go better.
Yeah, that's why I said rye because I felt like
Yeah.
that'd be really nice.
Like the bourbon is nice. It's just kind of subtle, and I think a rye with that kind of raspberry tartness, or like the blackberry, and then just kind of being mitigated by the cocoa. I think this is a very delightful. There is no part of me that is unsatisfied drinking this drink. I do think there are a few areas where it can be.
It's not refreshing enough.
I think it's super refreshing.
No, I think this is more.
It's almost too drinkable. That's where it's almost too crushable.
I think that's the whiskey. I think that if it was something more interesting or something more rye, to kind of like, so then you can have the cocoa. You want something. I think you don't want. I don't think a full rye. Maybe something like rye and corn.
yeah,
Or
like
barley.
a high rye bourbon.
Or malted.
Ooh,
Right.
that would be fun.
Yeah, but nothing with smoke. I think smoke would be too far. Maybe something like malted. That'd be like some malt. That'd be really nice. Then that way you can get the coke because you want the cocoa gently. You want the berry with a little bit of sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the whiskey, and then also I think this also could be good with tequila.
Oh,
Come on, tell me you wouldn't be good with a little bit of mezcal.
I can see this. Ooh, with a smoky. Well, with the smoke. With the smoke.
I just don't think that. I don't think that the whiskey smoke is the same for it.
Or like a Diplomatico kind of rum. I think it could do well with like an aged rum.
Yeah, I also, of course, would put it in a nice little glass.
Kind of hold all the little filtered bits at the bottom a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that, like, I went the syrup. I think I wanted to have that really distinct, bright color. I might even use food coloring. Oh boy, sue me.
You could use hibiscus, purple pea shoot blossom.
Ooh, oh fuck.
That kind of really bring out the.
Okay, so now we're getting into
We're
like
making high end and
because
steeped
I-
syrups, specialty.
we
These-
spoke about this because
These
I
aren't
was at
simple syrups anymore.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty complex syrups.
I was at that place, the Allegory in DC, and like some of the drinks have like different components. It's like sip this, lick this, then sip it again.
What?
And I like that idea. So like you can make it for them, but you can use the butterfly pea blossom in it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can like pour like a little lemon juice on top or something.
Oh, and then like have like a make your own kind of transfusion.
Yeah. So then
deal?
it gets like the swirls in there or something.
Oh, that sounds pretty.
Actually, maybe that'd be really good with something with like coconut milk. So it's like fatty, so that it's like separated, so that the color can streak inside of it.
Whoa, that would be.
Yeah, I haven't figured out the flavor yet, but I'm thinking about the visual
Mhm.
of having that kind of drink that kind of dances.
Hmm.
Oh man, I cannot wait. Here's the thing, this is like the thing. I cannot wait to open up a place where I'm able to not dump the business into like trying to make a different cocktail every day, but it'd be really nice to sit down and really formulate something really cool and just have that for a month.
Spiked oat milk lavender latte.
I love those. I like that. Honestly, I really like the idea of, having the space be movable and transformable to being a coffee shop in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Cool.
I like that a lot, because then people can come in and still get a little bit of coffee.
And who knows? Maybe you're just having a rough morning.
And then you have the
I-
coffee, then you have the coffee machine. Then that means that you can make the specialty coffee cocktails. We're going to have the espresso martinis, which I'm coming around on
When were you ever not around on espresso martinis?
a lot. This guy,
When
God, I'm too
did you
lazy to go
ever
back.
have beef with espresso
I'm too lazy to go back.
martinis?
But if I go back and put here, or maybe a clip or a link or something, we had an episode about them, and you must not have caught it. I just am not a fan. We even had the ones in the can. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was okay. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I
It doesn't feel. You know what? Espresso French doesn't feel free enough for me.
I thought espresso was Italian.
Shh.
Which, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about 1770. We're talking about revolution
Oh, we're talking about revolution, brother.
because the 4th of July just passed.
Hence the red, white, and blue,
Because the red, the
Yeah.
white, the blue. Because the past is past.
and the future is now, old man.
Oh God, I don't know anything about 1776.
That's I feel
1776, New York City. I know Hamilton. We spoke about this before, but my big thing is that I went to school for engineering. Before that, I didn't get a chance to learn history in school. So everything I know is things that I had to seek out, which is a lot of modern stuff, right? I have a lot of knowledge of modern political conflict and wars in the last 30 years, 40 years. I don't have any knowledge or understanding of what happened more than 130 years ago, except for an extremely specialized knowledge about when motors came and water-based fucking motors and pistons and shit like that. You know what I mean? And a little bit Tesla and fucking, the DC AC wars.
you're meaning to talk about that one time the World's Fair was in New York. You're like, yeah, I know history. That one time history revolved immediately around my local area.
anything that's related to what I went to school for, okay? So I don't know shit about history, and I think it's funny because we could sit here and we can make up pretty much anything we want to. Maybe we will, and who would notice?
How are they gonna know?
How are they gonna know?
How are they
How
gonna
are they
know?
gonna know? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go look it up.
What,
You're gonna go look it up.
how do you know they're not just changing the Wikipedia page to try to prove us wrong? You know, that's what the government would do.
George Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
6'5".
He was,
He was a man in finance.
and he had blue eyes.
He did have blue eyes. Sounds like he's the perfect alpha male.
I think he also may have had a trust fund.
Yeah, but like, since when were you a president? The first one?
He didn't
No.
just like
No, he gave up. No,
wound
no,
He,
no, seriously.
he didn't just land into the presidency.
He also, this is why people respect him, and this is why, first of all, this is why George Washington is hot. Okay,
he's got that grind set mentality.
he's hot because he had power over this fledgling state, and he easily could have set himself up as a king. And maybe
Yeah.
I don't want to gloss over the history, maybe for selfish reasons. You know, maybe his brain was riddled with syphilis. We'll never know.
Maybe he just said, you know, people don't live to be 80 in this time. And maybe I don't want to just work till I die. Maybe I just want to hang back at old Mount Vernon and
Surrounded by my good friends and good slaves.
and he just wanted to chill and have people work and own people. Like he didn't want to have to boss people around and pay them.
I mean, owning people's bad. I gotta own them because, like, if I don't, then the Johnsons got them. You know, and I know what Lafayette's saying, but I'm pretty sure he has a slave back in France.
Oh, he's got to.
He has to, obviously.
It's Lafayette, not Lafayette. So, you know, freedom ain't free.
Freedom ain't free. It's built on the backs of black and indigenous people. Humor, totally funny.
Is it a joke if it's just stating facts? So and then what? So
then
George Washington was like,
so then he was like,
I'm hot, I'm the shit.
I'm hot, I'm the shit. I'm going to actually set a precedent, which is interesting about our government. Our government is built on precedents, which is, it's like built on legal precedents.
45 of them, in fact. 45 presidents.
So he literally just got up and was like, I'm not going to be president no more. Somebody else will do this. And then they were like, oh shit. Damn, well, he's God King fucking George. If he said it.
I guess he's out. He's out.
Oh, you know what makes a lot of sense? Because if you think about it, they were like cucked, like really hard by England. So they were used to being under the thumb of an authoritative daddy.
And everyone was like, hey, you don't need an authoritative daddy. You just vote for one in like your locality, right? And then they be your authoritative daddy, but there's no like one daddy to rule them all. And then a bunch of people got real upset and they were like, we need one daddy to tell what all of our soldiers to do.
They used to have elections by riding a horse through places and going, who do you think shall be the president? And then people would go, aye! And then they would go, that seems to be the correct vibe.
Yeah, they just vibe check a town and be like, but I mean, okay, the Electoral College definitely makes more sense when you know it just evolved from a general vibe check of an area.
I mean, I think that people who want to eliminate the Electoral College, people who are like, I'm a leftist, okay? I think I'm radical as shit, but people just aren't educated about the way our government works. So they think, wow, we're eliminated. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. The Electoral College really don't mean shit, okay? The delegate, all that stuff, no. Our system is working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So, no, it is. But
it's supposed to have kind of a designed obsolescence.
People aren't educated about it. So what happens is, or what has happened is that the Republicans, oh, here I go on my soapbox. They've started a like 40+ year plan in order to like effectively give themselves power, right?
Just
So
kind of gradually chipping away at institutions that were created and designed.
that's
so
how
that
the politics works. That's
Okay,
literally how it works.
that's how it works. But like Daddy George said, hey guys, don't do political parties because that's gonna fuck everything up.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
And like political parties are gonna happen, but it's like don't make that your whole personality.
I think that this is my opinion. This is my original opinion. Don't take it out on the Was That in Good Taste brand. I apologize, even though the brand is us.
He's not a representative of the company.
Um, unfortunately, people have no idea what they're talking about, and the issue.
Now, when you say people,
I mean pretty much anyone, because the education system in America sucks, and so people can't read. So people think that people who can't read, not even poor people, period.
in fact,
Literacy-
there are a lot of rich people who can't read.
Literacy is in the fucking toilet. And you're telling me that people with whom literacy is in the toilet understand the strange and complex government system that we have? They don't. Because if they did, right, they would understand. It's like, oh, what do you do? It's like, you don't like the Electoral College? You can get rid of it. But you can't get rid of it today. It's set up so you can get rid of it in 20 years.
You gotta
so you're
wean
supposed
off of it.
You're literally supposed to.
I'd say even a 20-year thing is a pretty quick.
Well, I mean, things have been kind of getting accelerated, and I think that the 20 years, that's the more moderate in me. I think it could be sooner, because we've seen things that were fought against for many years get immediately both accepted, like gay marriage, and they were like the same for 50 years, and then one day they just decided to do it, right? Roe v. Wade was there one day, it's gone the next, right? So, I think that feeling that it's gonna like take 20 years is also a little bit wrong, but there is a process, and it's like, if you don't like the process, is you still have to participate in the process.
But James, how are we supposed to dismantle the establishment by partaking in the establishment's like recommended courses of how not to disestablish it?
That's almost like that's the kind of take that you're fed and that you hear on like TV shows that are produced by like multi-billion-dollar brands. It's almost as if people want to make you feel like you can't engage, like things don't happen when they do, just not for you, because people who have money have the time to engage in local politics and organize, and it works, but it doesn't work for you.
But James, then how do I get people with money, power, and influence to have the same kind of problems as me?
I mean, you could take their heads off, but I don't mean that.
That makes their problems very swift
That gets rid of their
and
problems.
immediate. Well, it gets rid of our problem.
People who are so concerned about the problems of rich people, they're not understanding that. And I know, because I suffer from anxiety. I don't fucking really know my neighbors, but we had an interaction, and whenever I interact with them, I interact with them with fucking glee. Whenever I interact with them, even though I have to deal with a lot of anxiety, I say things to them like, hey, if you need any help, I'm right here. I give them my number. I tell them what bell I am. I tell them when I'm home, even though I don't want to, even though I'm very anxious about it, because I know, and I think that that's how you're supposed to engage, right? Number one, it's like, fucking know your neighbors. People say that. It's like, well, I live in the Mid-South. Then dummy, it's not about you then. Okay? Like, if you live in a place.
No.
No, if everybody in your neighborhood's a fucking bigot and they don't want to hear what you have to say, like, obviously I'm not saying.
I thought you were like, if you live in a place where it's like 5 miles between your neighbors, still know your neighbors.
No. Know your neighbors. Like, if your family's like assholes, like, should I come out to my mom? She's made me homeless. No, don't come out to your mom. Then you're gonna be homeless. I know that doesn't sound good. Or come out to your mom
and
be homeless.
Like, it sucks, but like it's kind of that trade-off that you gotta be willing to. I don't know.
You gotta engage in politics directly, and people don't, and they're educated, and they're not taught to do it, and so it's hard.
It's so weird how like the generations before us were like literally shunned into refusing to talk about political sentiments.
100%. Yeah.
And it's crazy how people are like, oh, don't talk about money, politics, or religion, and it's like, okay, so we can just like be cool with not talking.
That's one of my biggest things I have. People who are like, oh, well, you know. So I've been getting a lot of heat on TikTok. I've been getting lots of slurs and all kinds of
Brag.
like wild stuff like thrown at me.
I'm so popular on TikTok. People are harassing me.
I mean, a little bit.
What?
And there's like two things. One, and I mean this with like, you know, my life kind of sucks. When I think about the actual reality, my material conditions and like my mobility, it's like really scary because there are things out of my control before I was ever born that have put limits on who I am and how I can operate, right?
Yeah.
But that aside, I feel like my life is kind of good. I struggle with a lot of things, and it's like, oh, anxiety, this, and ADHD, and depression, blah blah blah. It's like I get to spend time with my friends. I get
not
to like
diminish.
I'm not. I'm still not. I'm not to diminish. I'm just
Disclaimer. Just like
because these are my problems, right? You know, and I'm not trying to diminish these things.
my struggles.
Oh, I just don't think that like, you know, it's like these are my problems and they suck. But also, I acknowledge my life is good. So when bigots are literally on their farms, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they're like not even on their farm and it's like a good farm and they're part of their community. Everybody hates them. Their neighbors don't talk to them. And their fucking crop is failing because people don't want to engage in community with them. And they're mad at me and calling me a slur. And I'm living in the mid, like, okay, it's not good, but I live in the fucking seat of the fucking empire. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, I literally live in the seat. Somebody's like, "Oh, your life must suck," and it's like, listen, I was spawned lucky. Okay, like, you know, if I'm homeless, I'm still homeless in the seat of the empire. Okay,
Concrete jungle.
like I'm not trying to say nothing, but how are you trying to call me a slur when you can't spell? Okay, like how are you calling me stupid and uneducated when you don't know how fucking politics works?
Because it's all they have.
Okay, but I'm not. See, here's the thing. If you're like a leftist or whatever, this is why I don't complain. When people talk about stuff, I don't complain. I swear to God. When people talk and I'm hearing stuff, and it's like there's like three things. It's like one, stuff I don't understand. When that happens, it's a lot of the time. Let's say 70% of the time, because I'm not a fucking mega genius. I accept that. When I hear stuff, I'm like, oh shit. I don't know what this is. I do a little research. I'll try to look into it. You know, you get hit with stuff sometimes. It's like, this is a concept I don't get.
Say like 70% of the time you're scrolling your feed and you run across something that you just don't understand,
Well,
or that like you engage with something.
Well, when it's like educational content.
Uh-huh.
So like, for example, there's a person who I follow who's like this like really loud and boisterous trans woman. Right. And the reason why that's important that they're a trans woman is only because I saw their posts and I kept getting recommended to me. And when that happens, I engage with my TikTok feed very intentionally. I'm like, okay, I want to get good content. If it's getting served to me, I'm going to look at it, see what it is. I see, oh, this person has like my politics, but I kind of didn't like the way they were engaging with people. And I kept seeing it. And then I followed them because I said to myself, I'm not seeing anything wrong in what they're saying. I'm not seeing anything wrong in what they're saying, but I just am feeling like something about them I don't like, and they're not doing anything wrong or weird. And so I followed them, and then after a while, I was like, oh, I'm being transphobic. And the backup, not like
because
hyper.
Because you unfollowed them?
No, I followed them. Like, but my energy about not liking them, I was being
internalized.
I was being. I felt weird. I felt like I was like, yo, why? I'm like. I keep seeing this person and I'm like, every time I see them, they're like talking and I'm like, why does TikTok keep giving this to me? And I'm like hearing them and looking at them. I'm like, oh, what the fuck who is this?
Did you just say you?
But not because of how they look. It's
not
like
no,
that.
Jay.
Not like that. Not because of how they looked. It was because, I don't know, I just saw them talking. They were like arguing with the commenter, you know, and I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? But then when it keeps getting served to me, I'm like, okay, TikTok, I peeped it. This is how you get fucking viral. They serve you stuff. And if you see the same person, and if it's like, oh, they're trying to get you to react to this. Because then later,
TikTok's trying to be insidious.
Later, you'll see people reacting to that stuff that do your kind of content.
You know, someone should really start like a congressional committee to look into this kind of thing.
The other thing is that they'll serve the people to you if they're similar to you. So this person didn't look like I was going to be their enemy. They were saying things when I stopped and like listened to them that I like. their voice wasn't weird. It didn't, because my ears can sometimes like, oh, that hurts my ears or something.
Mhm.
They weren't being loud. They weren't making funny voices. They were not doing anything except for engaging with people, saying stuff that
They
I
were just
agree.
existing,
And
and you
so
thought that was annoying.
I realized it was the transphobia. I just realized that there were like
This
like
is
a,
growth.
a not super like passing trans woman is like arguing with people, but like when I started looking at the comments, I'm like, oh, these are comments of people that are like being kind of gross, and I see, and they're like engaging with them and like this, they don't give a shit about. They're not trying to make followers. They just want to be on TikTok, look at stuff, and also like if people say fucking weird stuff to them, they want to like argue with them, and I spoke to her about it, because that's the best thing about having like spaces where you can fucking talk with people. I'm about to say some wild shit.
Yeah.
This is my 4th of July pulpit, is that one of the reasons why the U.S. is always held up is because the forefathers built this foundation that could be changed and modified. And then people that came after said, that's cool. We love them. Let's change it for the worst. And also,
I think a lot of the okay, wait. Here's where I disagree, cuz historically, I think a lot of the changes that have been made Bill of Rights wise have been for the better. But now we've gotten into an era where people aren't just doing kind of blatant like, "Hey, let's do a Bill of Rights to give people more rights" kind of changes. It's like, hey, let's do some shit fuckery to make sure nothing gets done for people who need it.
the Constitution,
Yeah.
can you modify that?
Yes and no. You can modify the Bill of Rights, which is an addendum to the Constitution. But, like, the Constitution will always say what the Constitution says. And then everything kind of after that can
But the
either...
Constitution says stuff on it, though. It says stuff, perhaps, that could lead you to believe that you could even supplant it.
You could supplant it, yes.
With a
With
different...
things on the Bill of Rights.
Yes.
Things on the Bill of Rights.
It'd be like part 2.
Would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like a newer kind of testament.
Because I think that's the right way to say it. It's like, you know what? Yeah. That works.
Do you remember the the preamble? Did you ever have to watch on loop the Schoolhouse Rock of the preamble to the Constitution?
No, but is that the... No, I don't remember.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union.
Oh, yeah.
Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Provide for the common defense. Promote general welfare and to ordain in our prosperity. To ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
It's so, it's really weird.
It's a bop. Honestly, it's such a bop. But the whole thing, and you know what's also crazy? So
what is it?
Okay, in both of my learnings about U.S. history and
this is on topic.
This is on top. Learning about U.S. history.
Slosh sessions. Woo!
Learning about Judaism in both academic sense.
Sorry, you said the J word, not to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you condemn Hamas? You didn't
Wait.
expect that. You didn't expect that. You didn't expect that. Sorry. Free Palestine. I'm sorry.
Free Palestine. Not the biggest fan of Hamas specifically.
I had somebody write me and send me a message and be like, man, it was really cool that you and Chandler were like Free Palestine in the episode. It was like really good. I was listening. I was like, people are fucking listening.
Oh, neat.
And it's like, I probably need to be careful with my jokes I apologize. I didn't mean to.
You
do
got,
that
you
to
got
you.
me a little bit.
You know,
'Cause
I
was
didn't mean to do that.
Oh, wait. What are we
Didn't mean to do that.
condemning? No, but in both things, like in the Constitution and in the Torah, there's like the two main things are like do what's best for the people that you represent, or do what's best to diminish the cost of life. And like both things are like, man, that's idealistic as fuck. Where it's just like rule number one: don't fuck up other people just for the sake of fucking up. Like be decent.
It's so beautiful you said that, because I think really the thing that I think people who are obsessed with the Constitution, they're kind of right, because it's written by accident to be. It was written with hopeful language,
Right.
by accident. Because
it's a second draft. That's the funny part, is they had the Articles of Confederation, and that was a shit show. And that's what made him go like, hey, we need Daddy George to come back and actually run shit. And he was like, okay, first of all, this whole articles bullshit. What is this? Fucking BuzzFeed? No, get a constitution. Get real. And so the Continental Convention was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do this then. And
I've seen Hamilton, yes.
yeah. And so they did that. Also, this all started because, one, it was the 4th of July thing. We were going to try to get 1776 bourbon to do these fun little cocktails for, and then just kind of ruminate on the state of our current democracy. We ended up having Redemption bourbon, which I think
I thought about it. That's why
might actually be more apt.
That's why I picked it. I could have picked anything. I could have picked Buffalo Trace. I could have picked.
You could have, but you went with Redemption. The things that this country is kind of founded on were so instrumental and like ahead of its time when we developed a constitution, especially as like a document that was supposed to be something that like changes over time as the values of the people change. And like it has so much potential, right?
By accident.
But
it's beautiful
because people at the time knew they were turning in something on deadline that wasn't that good. And that's, as a procrastinator, I love that.
Yeah, their intention, and this is so beautiful, their intention wasn't, I'm not going to say there wasn't anybody, maybe when John Adams signed his big, or John Hancock or whatever the fuck, maybe they were thinking about, as they signed, I hope that this one word allows for the freedom of slaves, because as we know from politics, that does happen sometimes. People do fight over words, and so maybe there is some hope, maybe one person, but the reality is it was likely a mistake. But that fear, that concern, that worry for their own safety, and the worry of fascism coming across the seas and taking away what they wanted in their autonomy, and taking away what they've been fighting for, right? You know, now they're in a position, they're like, how do we prevent that? And because that is tied into racism and misogyny, it's inherently antithetical to the spirit of the Constitution by accident. The Constitution is not some magic. Some people are like, oh, it's not some mystical, magical bill.
It's not like the 10 tablets.
It's an accident.
An Ark of the Covenant kind of deal.
It's an accident. And so that's why people have looked to it. It was written in a way that was strangely modern before those kind of modern politics had really even set in. It was written in a way that leads for today's modern American politics, while they had a very different politics of the time.
It is interesting to see, like, the Constitution holds up if you just, like, pull your head out of whatever conservative interpretation of a free person is. But once you start, like, applying all of the aspects of the Constitution and Bill of Rights to just, like, when it says we the people, just be like, yes, and all people are people, it works.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. That's why it's obvious it was an accident. It was obviously an accident because they didn't consider other people to be people. And that's why they spent all those years coming up with rules to be like, actually, that means real people
I mean, you mean real people only count as landowning white men?
I don't think I
But-
don't think in the
Or
next
was
10
that
years.
was everyone there who was like, was it just kind of like one of those locker room stipulations where they're like, yeah, we'll say we the people because that's what we believe in. And then there's like the small faction who's like, yeah, but like, okay, well, we say only the people. And they're like, fuck, I guess if we got to get Pennsylvania to sign on to this. Yeah, coming for you, Pennsylvania. You're the ones who are.
I mean, honestly, at that time, I think that. Wow, I've been doing a lot of reading to try to catch up on my modern history. My dates aren't good, but I understand, or from what I understand, anti-slavery sentiment was rearing its head heavily at that time as well, right? And I think that while it's not obviously they were not writing the Constitution with the most like progressive hand, it'd be unfair to argue that there were not people in the room who had voices, who tried, who were pushed. Because even George Washington, who had slaves, he was a centrist about it.
Yeah.
Which we should hold him to account for. And that's like he owned people, which you can't do. But
Well, I mean, he could.
well, he could,
He
and he
could.
did, but you shouldn't do.
But if you could,
But like he's very centrist about it. You know what I mean? It's like, I of course I go to the Home Depot and I get somebody and I pay them $2 an hour in 2024 to mow my lawn 2 times a week, $2 for the whole day because work is slow and nobody's going over there and they need anything in order to feed their fucking family.
and he's got like 200 soldiers that are just hanging out with him at
It's
any
bad.
given time.
It's bad. I voted for Obama. That's the vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's so complicated. It's so complicated. And that's why I also haven't really gotten into that time. Because when I first found Hamilton, right, I liked Hamilton. I got to see it on lottery because I used to like submit to the lottery all the time.
Oh, that's
It was like really cool. And when it came on Disney Plus, I liked it a lot. I watched it a bunch. But going to DC really for the first time in my adult life and like going to like the Natural History Museum or going to like whatever the museum is about the Smithsonian American History Museum. We were in like this room, and in the room, it was talking about like the room where it happened.
There it is.
It was a room, and they were like just going through the history of America. In the beginning, they talked about how there was like the murdering of indigenous people and things like that. Absolutely terrible, right?
Mhm.
Then it's like going through history about like the evolution of like social things, and like black people get like Jackie Robinson as part of the baseball thing. Or I think there was one other black person, and it was like no black representation. It was like at Latino representation.
Wait, y'all didn't get like W.E.B. Du Bois? Or
No,
like
and then across the room,
or like
this is not bad. This is not
Nat
bad.
Turner?
But this is what I think always happens with like that kind of weird racial infighting between like marginalized groups is because like then across the hall was like a thing for like about a Puerto Rican and Latina like newscasters, right? And it's like they get a thing, literally they get a whole thing, but like conversations about
They get a thing.
Jim
but-
Crow and all that stuff was literally like Jackie Robinson as part of a video thing. And then like they had these 3 screens going through like a story, and it was like very idealized versions. But also, this is why you really shouldn't fucking hate people who are also marginalized, because of course the Puerto Rican the little mini museum thing about like famous Latina newscasters was empty and
Let me ask
nobody
you,
was in there.
Did they have something about Eli Whitney?
Who? Wow, this is familiar.
Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin. Did they have something about Eli
No,
Whitney?
they did not.
Because
Well, they might have, but I to be fair, I didn't. The first thing we saw was they took the house of some people from like the 1700s, the actual house,
oh,
and it was plopped in the middle, and you could like touch parts of it, and it was like 4 different families, and so you would go and it would tell the story of these families, and and of course, the representation is that they had families that were anti-slave. They used to meet up. These white people used to meet up. You know, I was like, oh man, these random white people really, there's really famous black people who were anti-slave and who were literally part of history that it's taught in school around the same time.
Yeah. But they weren't these four random white people who were
four random
abolitionists.
white families. It's like, oh look, they had a meeting.
No, it's just part of the way that I've also learned history is like, well, and then there was this guy who made slavery super popular again. And, well, the rest is history.
I mean, I don't think that's fair, only because it's just an excuse to use people that you can just grab and make them work for you. It doesn't matter what it is.
The crazy part is most of the time you didn't have to grab the people.
Yeah.
You just had to go to the people store. That's fucking wild.
Well, let's talk about the people store real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. The people store isn't completely true. In the way, there's ways. You would go to slavers and buy slaves.
Right.
After that, you would just own slaves. After that, you wouldn't really go and trade this. There are things like slave tags. It's people finding slave tags. It's a whole thing right now. There were definitely instances of people trading slaves between them. But the Mandingo breeding and things like that stuff wasn't really happening. It wasn't really happening in the way that there were like plantations doing it. It was obviously happening on plantation.
There weren't breeding farms.
Yeah, I think I think people just get connected because they get messed up because we live in a modern age and they just think, oh, you can just go 2 miles. People lived far away, moving slaves to another. Django Unchained. Fiction.
Well,
at the beginning of it,
at a
what's
certain
happening?
Point, you can just kind of so what? Again, business just doing business's thing. For so long, slaving was just well, we're gonna go. It was a lot of Dutch and Portuguese and Spanish, and which is actually one of the reasons why Britain stopped doing slavery in Great Britain was because they had embargoes with all these places, and they're like, we don't want to do business with them.
Yep.
So we're gonna stop doing slaves, and also we want work for our own. That's also kind of funny. Whereas in these white countries where they're like, we're gonna stop doing slavery, not because it's unethical or wrong or morally incomprehensible, but it's just taking away jobs from hardworking white people.
I mean, I'm gonna be real. Imagine keeping cattle like cows. That's hard.
Yeah.
Keeping people is much harder and much more expensive and does not scale. So that's that's why racism is so silly and things like that. It's like, what do you?
There's
you're gonna get people.
There's no dividend return on racism.
You're gonna get people and get people to pick cotton for you. Yeah, that's that. Yeah. You have 2 options. All the people there, get them all together, educate them so they can all figure things out, and then they could figure out a way to pick cotton and make cotton. Or you can take half the people and you can beat them, not educate them, and make them pick cotton with their hands. I'm just saying.
You mean I could either spend more money on a system that only works as good as it's gonna get, or I can spend less money but resources and wait. Here's the hard part. I have to expend empathy towards people.
You can see. This is why I think if you're a slaver, you can extend empathy. People always say George Washington treated his slaves well. All you got to do to extend empathy is not rape your slaves. You can beat the slaves, but you don't impregnate your young slave girls. You don't grab the little 9-year-old slaves and get them pregnant. That's.
Would you say that's a cancelable offense? Would you say that's something that might, I don't know, get you kind of demoted from mountain
Wow, look at that.
Sculpture.
Wow, man.
We didn't even get to talk about our current state of politics.
That's because you know why? Because when you start talking
About history.
about history without a plan,
You get into some redemption.
you end up getting stuck because you can't think about what's going to be happening forward if you don't look back.
Where are you going to know where you're going if you don't know what you came from?
God.
You know what I found out recently? Sam Elliott from The Big Lebowski. You know, the guy who talks like this.
The guy who talks like
And
this.
got a big old fluffy mustache.
Yeah, oh, that guy. Yeah, I know that guy.
He's from Sacramento.
Is he really?
He's from where I'm from. Isn't that neat? That's a fun fact. So sometimes when you want to know about what your history is about, it doesn't just help to know about where you came from, but know about where the people who are at now who came from the same place that you came from. Then maybe you can come from them too.
Or you could do. Nope, not going to say it. Coming or going.
Ford F-150. It's 2 tons of 3 impressive tires and 1 tire that's gonna sit on the back and just kind of roll around like a fun little frat guy.
You ever want to be driving 15 miles an hour through a city center and run over a family of 4 by accident? Get yourself a Ford F-150.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee. Yeah, we named it that. Who's gonna stop us? Wow, wow, wow. Wow, 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 wow.
Oh, yeah.
Keep that in mind when you go to these voting polls this next November.
Yeah.
There's 2 guys you're going to have to vote for. Maybe we should add a third. Make this a menage a trois. That's French for freakified.
Could you imagine
Huh?
marrying someone,
Yep.
taking away all their autonomy,
Yep.
literally like subjugating them and like treating them poorly, and then when they leave you, you just like get lonely, and then like you try to talk to girls that are like half your age on Reddit. It's pretty sad.
That's on my to-do list. Actually, it's
That is not on your to-do list.
get married, get tragically divorced, become sad, horny, and lonely.
Do not
Send
send messages.
to
teenagers. I don't want to talk about the current state of anything. Fuck.
Yeah, that's that's about where it's at.
Well, damn, that's, I guess, shit.
1776. Redemption. This has been the Blackberry Smash cocktail episode. What else we talked about? I'll never tell.
Wait, hold on. Quick. 2 ounces of 2 ounces of bourbon. All right. 1 whole ounce. I think you know what it is? It was too sweet for you. I think it's because we've been drinking some heavy proof things recently, so I just too sweet. So I wasn't sure, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 1 dash of orange bitters. 2 dashes of orange bitters.
2 dash
1 orange
and 1 dash of
of Woodford Reserve
Chocolate.
chocolate bitters. You know what? Life wouldn't be as good without all that chocolate, putting in all that work.
You know, some people say that this country was built on chocolate.
I can't. You know
Some
what?
people say chocolate landed on us.
This is why drinking is not required.
But it is recommended.
Ford F-150.
The Ford F1. Did I tell you about how I was almost late for work the other day because